The woman was devastated by her husband's betrayal and was ready to leave this cold world behind. But just as she stepped onto the rooftop, she heard the baby inside her say, "Mom, you can't die. Give birth to me first, and I'll deal with those two for you." The woman had no idea that the baby inside her was actually her best friend, who had died 3 years earlier. It turned out that the woman and her best friend had grown up together in an orphanage and had always been as close as sisters. 3 years earlier, the woman's biological parents had finally found her, and overnight, she became the daughter of the richest family in the city. However, on her very first night back home, she was kidnapped by a group of criminals. To save the woman, her best friend pretended to be her and lured the pursuing kidnappers away. In the end, the kidnappers took her life and abandoned her in a remote area. The woman tearfully begged her parents to avenge her best friend, but because the killers were never found, nothing ever came of the case. What she did not know was that the people who had planned everything were the family's adopted daughter and her own fiancé. To honor the best friend who had died for her, the woman visited her grave at the exact same time every year to pay her respects. Later, after being repeatedly urged by her family, she married her fiancé. But it was not until the woman became pregnant that her husband and adopted sister finally revealed their true colors. They deliberately shoved her from behind, causing the baby's heartbeat to stop. This was because the adopted sister was also pregnant with his child. She would never allow the woman's baby to become the heir to the family fortune. Heartbroken and completely hopeless, the woman prepared to end her life by jumping from the building. But just then, she suddenly heard her best friend's voice. The woman thought that missing her best friend so much had caused her to hallucinate. Just then, the baby inside her spoke again and said, "I was reincarnated as your baby so I could come back to you. If you die now, I'll be in serious trouble. Not only will I have to return to the underworld to pay off my debts, but there'll also be no one left to honor me." The baby then said the secret phrase that only the woman and her best friend had ever known. Only then did the woman realize in shock that her best friend had really returned, but her face was still filled with worry. Her in-laws favored boys over girls, so after learning that she was carrying a girl, they encouraged their son to get involved with the woman's adopted sister, hoping she would give them a grandson. But her best friend told her not to worry. She said she had already taken out a loan in the underworld and spent a fortune to make sure she came back as a boy. Her plan was to make those two suffer and get revenge on the woman's behalf. Just then, the woman's husband arrived. He immediately dragged her to the hospital, intending to force her to undergo a procedure to terminate the pregnancy. The adopted sister pretended to be innocent, claiming that the woman had tried to hurt her first and had accidentally bumped into the corner of the table herself. She then shamelessly said that they were sisters after all, so she would never blame her older sister. The best friend inside the woman's belly could not stand listening to her anymore and told the woman to hit her. The woman did exactly as she was told and immediately gave her adopted sister a beating. She then exposed her in front of everyone and revealed that the adopted sister was the one who had actually pushed her down. Seeing this, the husband quickly defended the adopted sister. He angrily accused the woman of being so vicious that losing her baby was entirely her own fault and no one else was to blame. He even said that heaven had punished her and that she deserved it. Hearing this, the best friend became furious. She started throwing punches inside the womb, trying to teach the woman's husband a lesson. Unexpectedly, this caused the woman to have a violent reaction, and she suddenly vomited all over both of them. When the doctor saw what had happened, he immediately examined her again. To everyone's surprise, not only had the baby's heartbeat returned, but the baby's gender had also changed, and she was now carrying a boy. Both the husband and the adopted sister were shocked when they heard the result. At that moment, the woman's father-in-law and mother-in-law arrived. When they heard the news, they were overjoyed. They immediately rushed over and began fussing over the woman, asking whether she was feeling all right. They also announced in front of everyone that the woman was the family's true heiress and that only her child would be eligible to inherit the family empire. The adopted sister tried to pretend that her stomach hurt so she could win the older couple's attention. However, neither of them paid any attention to her because they were too busy caring for the woman. Furious, the adopted sister turned around and left. Over the next few months, both the woman and her adopted sister entered the final stages of their pregnancies. The best friend was exceptionally well behaved inside the womb and kept her movements as gentle as possible. As a result, the woman had an unusually easy pregnancy, barely experienced any discomfort, and had a great appetite for everything she ate. The adopted sister, on the other hand, was not nearly as fortunate. Her baby moved constantly, she had to use the bathroom all the time, she could not sleep through the night, and she threw up everything she ate. Her temper also became increasingly worse. To give the woman greater financial security, the best friend would deliberately wave at her grandparents during every checkup and even press her little palm against their hands as they placed them on the woman's belly. The father-in-law and mother-in-law were delighted. They immediately promised that once the baby was born, they would give the family heirloom to the woman, along with 20% of the company's shares. The best friend knew that the woman's due date was approaching and that the adopted sister would definitely try to cause trouble, so she reminded the woman to take precautions as soon as possible. Before long, the day arrived when both women went into labor at the same time. The best friend positioned herself perfectly, allowing the woman to give birth painlessly in only 20 seconds. Even the doctor said that he had never seen anything like it in his 20 years of practice. When the father-in-law and mother-in-law arrived, they were overjoyed. The mother-in-law immediately removed the family's heirloom bracelet from her wrist and placed it in the woman's hands. Meanwhile, the adopted sister suffered terribly. Not only was her baby in the wrong position, but she also experienced a difficult labor and severe bleeding. After being put through an entire day and night of agony, she finally gave birth to her child. When the two babies were placed next to each other, the difference between them became even more obvious. The woman's baby was quiet and well-behaved, while the adopted sister's baby would not stop crying, irritating the father-in-law and mother-in-law. Even the adopted sister became so angry that she called her own baby a jinx. She immediately came up with another evil plan. That very night, she ordered her personal nurse to switch the two babies. Fortunately, the woman had already taken precautions and caught the nurse inside the hospital room. The woman hurried forward and tried to take back the baby that her adopted sister was holding, but the adopted sister refused to let go and insisted that the child was her son. The husband immediately stepped forward to defend her. He angrily accused the woman, saying, "You already stole her identity as the daughter of the richest family, and now you're trying to steal her child too. How can you be so vicious?" The adopted sister also began pretending to be pitiful. She claimed that the woman already had a son and asked why she still wanted to steal hers. Fortunately, the woman suddenly remembered that her baby had been born with a red birthmark on the bottom of his foot. After the father-in-law and mother-in-law checked the baby, they immediately confirmed his identity. Only then was the woman finally able to take her son back. Because the nurse had already accepted money from the adopted sister, she refused to say anything. The father-in-law and mother-in-law immediately ordered their bodyguards to take her to the police station under guard. 1 month later, the woman's in-laws planned a lavish party to celebrate their grandson turning 1 month old. The adopted sister argued that since both children had been born on the same day, they should be celebrated together. However, the father-in-law said that she had no right to make such a request. He also declared that from then on, they would publicly claim that her child was the posthumous child of his late eldest son. The adopted sister was so furious that she immediately turned around and left. When the day of the party arrived, the adopted sister still showed up with her baby in her arms. In front of all the guests, the father-in-law announced that he would transfer 50% of the company's shares to the woman and her newborn child. The mother-in-law also transferred ownership of several villas in her name to the woman. Seeing that the woman was about to gain the recognition of the entire family, the adopted sister quickly urged the husband to find a way to stop it. Just then, the woman's biological parents arrived. Instead of congratulating their own daughter, they publicly condemned her for being shameless. They accused her of betraying her husband during their marriage and giving birth to a child whose father was unknown. The entire room instantly fell silent.